Well, I want to introduce to everybody Ralph Rebandt. Did I say that right, Ralph?
Rebandt.
See, I'm Mexican, so I'm renowned for slaughtering names. So, okay, Rebandt. So, Rebandt. Everybody got that? Okay, I was doing that as a test for you guys. All right. So Ralph here is running for governor. So Ralph, why don't you tell us a little bit about you and how it is that you came to say, hey, you know what? I woke up this morning and I'm going to run for governor. I mean, where did that come from?
Sure. If I may just introduce my wife, Carol. She has not only been a great pastor's wife for 35 years, but she's been a great support in this whole endeavor. She's 100% behind me in doing this. I'm not sure why, but she is 100% supportive of it. And I just wanted to let you know, she is a hunter. Several years ago, she shot her first deer. I know there's questions about whether or not you should shoot a deer with an AR-15, but she was using my gun out there. She now calls it her gun, by the way. So she was using my gun, and it was so cute because she was sticking the gun, ready to pull the trigger, and I can't do this. Yes, I can. Well, now I have to imagine that if I don't do this, my grandkids won't eat. So with that in her mind, she was able to pull the trigger. I heard the gun go off, so about a half hour later I walk over to her and we saw some blood, and I said, well, I said, I'm going to go this way, follow the blood trail. She said, why are you going that way? The deer's over here. And I said, because the blood trail goes that way. And she said, but I smell the deer over here. I'm like, what? You smell the deer? You got to be kidding me. She was right. I started walking the path. She walked over there, and then she whistled and said, I got the deer. I couldn't believe it. It was nuts. But anyway, I was looking for where she shot the deer, and you'd mentioned, Rob, the heart shot. And I couldn't find any holes in this deer at all because a .223 small. And I finally pulled the heart out, and there was a hole right in the middle of the heart. And I'm just like, that's insane. So anyway, she's the mother of our 4 kids. We have 16 grandkids. And someone asked me, they said, okay, Ralph, tell us a little bit about yourself. Why, what makes you qualified to run for governor? I said, well, I've been with the same girl since 1970. We got married at 18, and the lady said to me, no, that's not about you. That's about her. So anyway, yeah, we've been married since we were 18. We got engaged on graduation night from high school. I knew that I wanted to marry her in 11th grade when I finally got up the nerve to ask her to marry me. It was about a year and a half later. But needless to say, she's been a great wife and a great support. So I just wanted to introduce her with that story. Why am I running for governor? It's because I've been watching all the craziness go on in America and the things that are going on in our state that are just way off the charts. I've seen our constitutional rights be trampled. I've seen our religious rights be trampled. It blew my mind that our governor would say churches are not essential, they need to be closed, but yet you could have an abortion clinic open, and that's okay. Those things just did not compute in my mind. And so you may have heard of the story of Andrew Bellinger. He's a member at our church. He left a very well-paying engineering job to become a missionary to Planned Parenthood. And he stands out in front of Planned Parenthoods every day they're open, let's say that. Every day that they're open, he stands on the sidewalk and pleads with women not to abort their children. And right after the governor had issued her stay-at-home order, yet the Planned Parenthood was still open, he was out on the street. And Planned Parenthood called the Detroit Police Department. They showed up, and there were about 12 guys around him. And it's online. You can get the camera views. He was interviewed by his national name because of this. And Andrew was issued a $500 ticket. And he said, this doesn't make sense. I'm out here exercising my First Amendment right. The governor has said that these people can abort their children, so why should I get a ticket? And he got a ticket. He called, I don't think it was Ave Maria, but it was an Ann Arbor Catholic attorney firm, and within 3 days, the governor had backed up and said, we're not going to go anywhere with this. So his ticket was dismissed, and I just applaud him for his courage. But it's things like that that just blow my mind. You know, we talk about California. The churches were shut down for well over a year. And you say, well, that's not Michigan, that's California. My friends, that's America. And we shouldn't have that in America. I don't know if you heard, but right after Governor Whitmer, I have to show respect, so I'll use that phrase. After Governor Whitmer became governor, there was a church in Southgate, Michigan, and the pastor had a seminar to help young people understand who they are as made in the image of God, as individuals, as God created them male and female. And the news broke out with, well, this is conversion therapy, this is not psychology, this is just, you know, they're trying to twist people's arms, it's all religious stuff. And our attorney general, she said, we need to see that man's sermons because he's preaching hate. That's in Michigan. And I remember when that happened, and I thought, this is just off the charts. This is unbelievable. So here I am. We're coming into 2020, and when all this started to break, of course, like everybody else, we were concerned that COVID was going to kill everybody. I mean, that's what the projections were, and the charts and all of the models that Fauci and Birx had given, and we were watching those every day. And so governor shuts down the state. And I understand, to try to figure out what was going on, I understand that we needed a few weeks or maybe a month to figure that out, but it became evident that she was trying to become vice president, and she wanted to be on that ticket. And so it was during that time where seriously, in the middle of the night, I would wake up at 2 a.m. thinking about Michigan, worrying about Michigan, thinking about what are my kids and my grandkids going to grow up in. So I shared that with my wife. I actually shared that story with a friend who's in the Republican Party. He's a paid employee. And I said, you know, I woke up at 2 in the morning, and just last week I woke up at 4 in the morning. He says, Ralph, if you become governor, you're going to wake up every morning at 4. So anyway, I said, well, I'm ready for that. And as I began to think about this more, and as the Lord began to lay on my heart to do this, I never thought that I would run for governor. I mean, I've been at the same church for 35 years. I've been, if I was there for 6 more years, I would set a record in our denomination for the longest ministry at the same church. And that's what I thought I would do. And the Lord just said, Ralph, you need to change your gears here, and you need to jump into this. So here we are. The campaign is gaining momentum. I don't know if any of you even know who I am or had the opportunity to look at my website, but I will tell you this, that I had an interview 2 weeks ago in Detroit, and somebody asked me, you know, what makes my campaign different from everybody else's that's running right now? And I said, well, if you look at the other people that are running, and they're all quality people, believe me. I met, you know, Garrett and Ryan and Austin and Bob, and haven't met Tudor, but I've met these people, and they're good people. But if you look at my website, you'll see what's different is that I have a plan and a strategy. I mean, it's one thing to just have a list. Yeah, I'm in favor of the Second Amendment. I'm in favor of the First Amendment. And, you know, and you can check off the thing, that's what I'm for. Or primarily, I'm against Whitmer. But if you look at my website, you're going to see that our vision, our campaign's vision, is to make Michigan a lighthouse to the nation. It's not just about us as a state. It's not about getting Whitmer out of the office, though that's the means by which this making Michigan a lighthouse to the nation will happen. It's about making Michigan's culture, its mindset, its understanding of truth, transformed to where our founding fathers, on the basis of our national motto, In God We Trust. So if you look at my website, I have 4 words, In God We Trust. I have 4 values, truth, respect, dignity, and love. I can explain all those if we want to stay here till 10 o'clock. And then I have 4 strategies and 4 solutions. And the whole point is that we would bring the state together. Our state is so fractured. And in my whole life, I've been bringing together families, people who are on the verge of divorce. I've been bringing together parent and child who have been having difficulties with each other. I was even asked well, at least 2 or 3 times to sit on a reconciliation board between businesses because they wanted somebody who would be a neutral party. So I sat on those boards. And we brought resolution. And as I look at how my life has been ordered and arranged by God and the things that I've gone through, I said, okay, I've got to do this. So let me just tell you 3 more things about myself, and then I don't know if I've gone on too long or not, but I'm more than happy to answer your questions. But on the local level in Farmington Hills, as I said, I've been the pastor of Oakland Hills Community Church for 35 years. That church started out as a church plant with 13 people. And I like to give this analogy, if I can just veer off for just a moment. If you were to take what I did in church planting and put it in a business model, here's what you would have. I started a startup business. We ended up with 3 franchises, one in Brighton, one in Royal Oak, and one in London, Ontario. Because those 3 started off and are now self-sustaining franchises, I was elected by my peers to be the chairman of a committee that oversees other franchises, i.e. churches, in Michigan, Indiana, Illinois, Wisconsin, and in Ontario. And so I've been dealing with people, budgets, problems, and issues my whole life. And so locally, that's where I've been as a church planter, as a pastor at the same church. Statewide, I don't know if you're aware of this, but I've been a chaplain for the Michigan Chiefs of Police for over 30 years. I'm their only chaplain. If you go on the website, Michigan Association of Chiefs of Police, thank you. If you go on their website, I'm their chaplain. And as I said, I've been doing that. I was given an award several years ago for a 30-year award, and it was humbling, it was honoring, and I didn't even expect it. I volunteer my time to do that. I don't get paid to do that. I love law enforcement, and I love our state, and so I wanted to be available for people who were in need. And so I've done marriages, I've done funerals, I've done counseling for police officers and their families and their friends and people in our community, our city, same kind of things. So on the state level, I've been involved with the Chiefs of Police, and even this past February, I presented at their conference in Grand Rapids a breakout session titled "In God We Trust." And I chased the national motto, before it became a national motto, through, I don't know if you know the 3rd or 4th verse of the Star-Spangled Banner. It does have our motto, shall always be in God we trust. It's amazing. We just sing the first verse, but look at the 3rd and 4th verse. It's really profound. So I chased that through the history. I chased that through legally. I chased it through that every president, well, there may be some exceptions happening right now. Every president has embraced that truth. John F. Kennedy, I mean, I could sit here and name every president. And so I showed to the officers, the chiefs of police, and my encouragement was to them that I would love to see "In God We Trust" on the back of every police car in Michigan. So I'm happy to report that there were several departments who sent me pictures of the back of their police cars, and it was heartwarming, and it was just encouraging to know, and and I believe it's going to catch on. And if I become governor, I'm convinced it's going to really catch on, because you're not going to get any pushback when I'm signing that bill. So anyway, on the national level, this is my last point. On the national level, I serve on the Board of Governors for the Council for National Policy. That began under Reagan's administration with Attorney General Ed Meese and about 6 other gentlemen who wanted to bring together conservative thinkers. If I was to name people who are in this group, there are 400 to 600 people in this group. If I was to give some names, you would say, "Are you kidding me? Those people are in this group?" I'm not sure how I got into it. Well, I do. Denise had mentioned our conference that we had in 2016. The conference was entitled America's Christian Heritage, and through that I was invited, it's by invitation only, to sit in this on this board. And the interesting thing about it is that there are only probably 4 or 5 pastors out of 600 people. And so anyway, my point is that with this association, we talk about policies nationwide. Just this past meeting in Naples, Florida, we talked about state budgets. And I can tell you that this group is a profound group of men and women. There are people in this group that sat right outside of Trump's door in the White House. I am not kidding you. They're amazing people who are on his transition team. And we talked about the state budget. And we talked about things like in Michigan, we have income tax and we have property tax. There are states that don't have both of those. And they're running well, and they're doing fine financially. So this is experience that I'm bringing to Lansing if you folks elect me. I'm not just standing up shouting about Whitmer. I'm telling you that there are amazing principles on my website that you'll see. I don't know if you've ever heard of Grover Norquist.
So, Ralph, is there any possibility you can give us that website address?
Oh, yes, sorry. It's ralphrebandtforgovernor.com. ralphrebandtforgovernor.com. There's not an extra R, though my dad, Rob, he always pronounced our name, Rebandt.
Really? So
yes.
I wasn't wrong.
You're
I was
not
just one
that far
generation off. Okay, got it.
You're not that far off. But anyway, I'm wrapping up my introduction, and I don't know how much time I've taken. As I told you, the clock doesn't mean anything to a pastor. But I'm happy to answer any questions. Rob, I don't know if I've said enough or.
So I got some really basic questions
Yes,
for you
sir.
here. So Ralph, do you like guns?
I love guns.
Okay, all right, you're in the right crowd. So we got problem number one solved. He can keep talking because he loves guns.
May I interrupt you for just a second?
Oh, you sure can.
You said we're not here to say that I have a new gun. We're here to talk about the Second Amendment.
Yes.
I'm here to talk about a new gun. I'm like, I can't agree with that.
Well, I think we can get into that. So go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is your favorite gun, though? Let's talk about that.
My favorite gun is a deer rifle. It's a Remington 760 30-06 pump that I bought when I was 12 years old with my paper route money because I wanted to go deer hunting.
Very nice. Okay. That's cool. That's cool. Oh, it looks like we got a question.
We
up
have a
front here.
question.
Okay. You got
It's got to record.
Well, I'm very concerned about our public schools and where they're going and what they're teaching. I have grandchildren and great-grandchildren. I'm afraid of this LBG. I'm worried about this Black Lives Matter. And what can we do to stop this? We've got to get our public schools back to a Christian-based faith so that we can teach our kids to know about our government and that homosexuality and transgender is wrong.
Well, your question is profound, and I've thought about this a lot. And I have one of my strategies is what I call the round table. And the round table is going to be this. We are going to assemble a group of people who love our Constitution, who agree with our 4 words, "In God We Trust," who agree with truth. We're lying to our kids. I shouldn't say we. Transgenderism is lying to our children. And it goes against science. It goes against everything that God has ordered and arranged. And so I will not lie to our children, and I will not lie to the people of the state of Michigan. And so what I want to do is assemble a group of people that will go through the curricula in Michigan, and we will take out anything that is off the charts, and I shouldn't say off, anything that's wrong, that's a lie, that's not truth. We'll take out critical race theory. We'll take out all of the things. I'll go so far as to say this, my friends. I'm not sure. Let me just say this. I don't think it's the school's job to teach my kids sex ed. It's the parents' job. And so I would take that out of the curriculum. I sat on Governor Engler's Sex, Drugs, and AIDS Committee. This is when I first became a pastor. You guys will love this story. I'd only been a pastor in Farmington Hills for I don't remember when Engler became governor, but only a couple years. And the school board was required by Engler to hire or to bring on board a pastor from the community to make sure that the curricula was on target with the needs and the beliefs of the community. So there have been pastors who were in Farmington Hills for 15, 20 years, and they asked me to do this. So I said, why did you ask me? And their answer was this. we figured if our changes to the curriculum would get past you, being the most conservative pastor in Farmington Hills, it's going to get past any family or parent in the district. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty crazy. I pushed for, let me back up. I just have to tell you this. This is a confession. I agree with our governor on one thing, social distancing. Look at you. Let me give you the punchline. I've been teaching abstinence to our young people. So I've been telling them that they need to social distance for 35 years. And I share that with you because abstinence wasn't even in the curriculum in Farmington Hills at that point. And we need to add this word. Well, we can't do that. Why not? Well, that's religious. I'm like, that's not religious. That's an option. We have to present the kids with what's going to protect them. That's the only real protection from unwanted pregnancy, from diseases, and finally they put it in. But I'm sorry if I threw you off. I don't, that's... So
Looks like
anyway,
we got another question.
my point is that we will go through the entire curriculum in the state, and we will take out anything that's anti-American, that's telling our kids a lie, put in the parents' hands the jobs of telling their children about sex, drugs, and et cetera. And they, when I've been involved in what was called Farmington Families in Action, and we came to the school systems and we said, we need to have a Say No to Drugs week. And they're like, we have too much to teach these kids. Well, my point let's get back to reading, writing, arithmetic. Let's give the parents all the other things to do, and we'll get back on track with teaching our kids the real history of America. So anyway.
So we got another question right here.
So I'm glad you're here. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
It's wonderful to be learning about you. I'm particularly clear that you have a lightheartedness and playfulness that is delightful at the same time. You have clarity of intentionality. And I can hear that you have worked with many different groups. David Bowman started with pro-life and pro-choice when he created the dialogue. So when you talk about a round table, where I'm going with that is I just live across the street. It's an African-American community. I do a lot of work here in the city of Pontiac, and I'm wanting to ask you, how are you able to communicate the things that you just communicated to us, to them? And I'm imagining you can. And I don't. That was really to the population that I, work with rather than them.
Sure, I appreciate that.
And I can hear that you've done challenging conversations.
Sure. I really appreciate that question because this is one of those things that in my background, the Lord has just prepared me for. And I will just share with you a couple bullet points. The first one is, in Acts chapter 17, Paul says, from one man, God made all peoples on this planet. God's original intent was unity from all the peoples. And when you look at redemption and forgiveness, we read in John's Revelation that people from every tribe, nation, kindred, and tongue will be assembled before the throne of God. So if that's how God views people, that's how I view them as well. And so to answer that question, 8 years ago, and it's not just 8 years ago, let me back up to when I was in 5th grade at Bambi Lake Baptist Camp. The first time I ever saw a black friend, a black person, was at that camp. And I grew up in Woodhaven, which was 20 miles south of Detroit, and this boy had a white hand. And I'm like, wow, his name's Reginald Davis. His dad was a pastor in the Southern Baptist Convention. Never seen him since, but he made such an impact on my life that I'm like, this guy's really, really cool. And I learned basketball. So for us to get better, we would go to E-Course in Detroit and play against the brothers. I mean, that's the only way you get better if you play against them. But I will say this, that our son and daughter-in-law adopted 2 beautiful little girls from Africa. And they are so special. But the way I'm bringing the message to them is not as a politician, but as a pastor. Throughout the last 10 years, I've been making inroads into Detroit, into churches and Wayne County with my brothers who are pastors. And they have really, when they found out that I was running for governor, they're like, we are in. We're excited about this. And I told them that I'm going to knock on the doors in their neighborhood. And I'm not going to ask for their vote as a Republican because the Republicans and the Democrats have done unfortunate things and neglected that group of people. And I said, but I'm going to ask for their vote as a pastor to trust me, to help them. And it's happening. Dr. Elvita King, Martin Luther King's niece, is coming to Michigan, and she's going to help me. Star Parker, does anybody know who she is? She was at my announcement in Lansing. If you haven't watched on Facebook, there's my 20-minute announcement, and then there's the 1-hour announcement. The 1 hour has some amazing people from around this country that have come in to support me in my candidacy for governor. And when I talk about the Council for National Policy, there are people around this country that when I meet with them 3 times a year, you know what they say is, everybody in California doesn't like your governor. Everybody in Florida doesn't like. I am not kidding you. That is the truth. And they said, we got to get her out of there. And so I could keep going, but my point is this, that and this is how I look at how the Lord has arranged the pieces of on the chessboard. I would have never thought 10 years ago that I was running for governor, but we were still helping people and churches in Detroit. I would have never imagined that my son would have and his wife would have adopted 2 little girls that are twins. You know, these are just things that the Lord has just arranged and said, Ralph, you've got to step up because you can connect with those people and everyone in Michigan. So I hope that answers your question.
So Ralph, let's fast forward. Let's play pretend. Let's say Ralph gets elected governor, okay? And it's your first 100 days.
Okay.
What's that going to look like?
Good question.
Got a vote back here for a new gun for everybody. I'm all for that stimulus package. Thank you.
Yeah, there you go. Well, you know that $15 billion from the feds, we're going to give everybody a gun in the state of Michigan.
Well, let me tell you, so far I've gotten 2 guns out of my stimuluses, so that's good.
There you go. Well, that's great. I mentioned the school system, the roundtable for the school system. Let me back up one more time on this roundtable issue. The way the tug of war is in Lansing right now is Republican Democrat, and the problem is we've seen business as usual because of that. It's whoever gets to sit at the head of the table makes all the decisions. We're seeing that with Biden and Kamala and all this stuff. It's like, okay, well, we won, and anyway, but that's what they're claiming. And so the point is that they sit at the head of the table, and whoever put them there, whether it's the special interests or the lobbyists to get them in, so they're all whispering in their ears. But the problem is that's only one segment out of 9 in society. That's only politics. There's law enforcement, there's families, there's nonprofits, there are 9 other areas that are neglected when you have business as usual in Lansing. So my roundtable idea is to give the citizens an opportunity to sit at the table. Because when you have people who are politicians not doing our will, but doing what the lobbyists are paying them to do, our voice isn't heard anymore. So I literally, if I'm elected governor, I will literally have a round table in my office, and there'll be a chair for the politicians, but there's going to be chairs for people like you. And the reason why is because, unfortunately, people get corrupted. Power corrupts. So to answer that question, what's it going to look like? I'll have a round table to go through the school system. Another round table is going to come through the budget. My buddy Grover Norquist says that there are a lot of ways that there's waste in state budgets, and we've talked. We're friends, and I've got his cell phone number, and we talk. You know, like Rob and I. You know, if I got a question, Rob calls me. I call him, and we talk with Grover the same way. And so, I'm not just coming as a pastor who all he's done is prayed in a corner for a bunch of people. I'm coming with a man who has a bunch of experience, and it's not just in a religious experience; it's business experience, and it's everything else. And so, I would have one on the budget as well. And so the idea is to begin to brainstorm with the brightest minds and people like us, even average people, at that table to discuss things like school curriculum, what we need to change so our children aren't being brainwashed and indoctrinated. We need to talk about the budget and how we can cut that. We need to really look at some serious charter schools. I'm in favor of charter schools. I like that. I like school options. So when it comes to schools and the questions, I am promoting that we have our money, vouchers, follow the student, not the system.
Excellent. Excellent.
So those are just two of the big ones, Rob, that I'm ready. Yes, sir.
My name's Lon Perkins, and the question I have, you're going to be there for the state constitution and the U.S. Constitution you support, I assume.
Absolutely.
And I assume you've read them.
Oh, absolutely.
And Article 1...
I've even memorized some of them for the parts that I need
Very
for
good.
my
I
presentation.
don't want to put you on too much of a spot, but Article 1, Section 8 has provisions for the money system. Money system is the crux of a lot of our problems. And then there's Article 1, Section 10 that pertains to the states. The states are the ones that can reinforce and call the federal government accountability.
Yes.
Article 1, Section 10 says no state shall make anything but silver and gold coin a tender in payment of debt. Now, how do they do that?
Just kidding.
The way they do that is the state does it, I think. You have to find out how you're going to implement it. Is you determine how the taxes are paid. That's how the state does it. Are you going to take the phony Fed money for taxes? Or are you going to make silver and gold coin a tender and payment debt? Now, a lot of states have made a farce out of it. And so, well, you can pay your taxes in gold if you like, you know. Well, that's obviously stupid. So the money issue is a critical issue, and if you have anything to add to that help us understand how you'd approach that, if you thought about it, I think it's important. Okay. And also teaching the Constitution in the schools and the curriculum, I'm sure you'd want to address that too.
Yeah, that's got to be done. I guess my answer would be all the gold in California is in a bank in somebody else's name. You don't know that? That's a country song. Anyway, yeah, obviously our monetary system's a mess. Biden is just cranking out money that's going to inflate things even worse. To answer that question particularly, I haven't looked at the issues related to money, but I do know that the budget, I've looked at the budget, but in terms of the monetary issues, when we left the gold in Fort Knox, we began to go downhill. And because of the inflation that we're facing now, I'm worried about our kids and our grandkids because it's almost impossible to dig out of that. And I can't help but think that this happens to be a plan to make us subservient to China. And until we somehow break out of that, we're going to keep going down the wrong path. So I'm open to anything creative on that issue. That's right. So that's why we have a round table. Yes, sir.
Hang on, let me come around to you so I can give you the mic here.
The question going back to the curriculum stuff, you want to set up a round table to, I guess, recheck the education system. Now, would that affect both public and private? And if you're going after the curriculum, it should affect the private, but then you're actually going after churches, and I've already seen some churches sway too far in a direction that's not even, I don't think, is good for children because they're teaching all these things that we want to not people to teach, like critical race theory and all this stuff. So I don't know. I guess what I'm saying is I kind of see like this is a double-edged sword because we're gonna have to recheck everything, but I don't know how you're going to convince churches that are already pushing some of this stuff.
Yeah, let me give you an illustration, and this is how things come back decades later. I remember when I was, I'm going to say 7th or 8th grade, my cousins who lived next door went to St. Tim's, a Catholic parochial school in Trenton, Michigan. And I remember there was a presentation that the parochial schools could get government money. And my aunt, I remember her being vehemently against that. She said, because as soon as you take the money, they're going to want to tell you what to teach. And so, I mean, as a little kid, it's like, why not take the money, you know? But then you begin to realize as you get older how that statement just transforms your thoughts, because she's absolutely right. And so to answer your question, there is a difference between parochial, private, Christian schools. And the round table would only be with reference to the public schools. That's it. I do not want the government getting involved in my family's decisions. I don't want them involved in our church's decisions. I don't want them involved in my medical decisions. And so that's where, as we look at that particular issue, it would only be affecting the public schools.
So Ralph, about a couple of years ago, a lady got up on a soapbox and said she was going to fix the damn roads. But I don't know about you, but they don't appear to be fixed to me. I mean, we put up some cones, that's nice, but I mean, this is really becoming a problem, and that problem's basically maintenance. So I mean, what could we do to put in place? We've already taxed people for it. So what's the plan for getting our roads back in shape?
Well, that's a great question. And on that note, if you look at the money in the state budget that was going toward roads, it's gone down every year. She's put less money each year toward roads. So her promise
is that because she's funding the health department with it, or what?
You mean those who leave the health department? Yes. So I've worked in construction. And I realized that, I poured concrete. This kind of stuff. I've got tools to do this. I've built buildings. As a pastor, I've done so many things in life. It's crazy, you guys. I've worked in factories. I've done janitorial work. Anything that would do to get my 18-year-old wife and me through college and graduate school, I did. But there has to be some sort of engineering or mesh or something that will help our concrete stay longer. Now, the problem we face in Michigan is the seasons. I love the 4 seasons. I wouldn't move to Florida for anything because I don't want to be down there in the muggy weather in the middle of June. But Michigan has the most beautiful seasons, but with that comes heaving and hoeing of the ground. And so if we can put a man on the moon, for crying out loud, why can't we figure out how to keep the roads better? Because they can rebuild them every 2 years. All those people. Yeah, that's true too. I'm sure that's true too. So.
Here's another question.
So we're on the economics, right? And by the way, my father was a poured wall and floor man.
Oh, nice.
I know how to work and as a contractor, but I was also raised on a farm with my mother and my stepdad, and I know how to work. So there's 2 directions I'm going in this. Our children don't know how to work today. It's a crisis.
You're absolutely
and
right.
they're just fighting, get off the screen, and then they just give up. So that's one. But when we look at, where will our revenues for the state be in your plan? So obviously agriculture, and also tourism, and GM and the car industry is not what it was, but they've got some aspirations for autonomous cars, etc. But I'm wondering, where else are you going? Are you going into there's a whole industry now with recycling. I mean, that's huge, as well as our energy. I mean, there's so many places that where are you going for our revenue in the future?
That's a very good question. I've thought about this, and the way that I would answer that is I would implement President Trump's economic policies and bring them to Michigan on the state level. I share that because I remember when Trump said he was going to bring businesses and back to Michigan and the United States, and Obama says, "What's he going to do? Just wave a magic wand and bring all these back?" Well, he did. He did. And to answer that question, it's more than just money. It's culture. It's the state itself. Right now, we're bleeding in Michigan. People are leaving. You know, I'm sure you folks are on Michiganders Against Whitmer. I'm on that too. And it's interesting because people are like, I'm out of here. I'm leaving. And they're all packing up and just heading out. And if the principles, not if, I've seen the principles, the 4 words, in God we trust, the 4 values, and the principles that you see in the solutions, strategies and solutions that I've been implementing on a local level in our church and other areas as I've started churches all over the Midwest. When you have those things working and you know they work, it transforms not just the budget, but it transforms people, and they say, I want to move to Michigan. Because anybody can move to a state where the roads are smooth. I mean, you can go to Georgia, and they don't have potholes. They don't have, winters that break anything up. It's just smooth sailing from, Atlanta all the way down to Florida line. It's another country song, by the way, Georgia, Florida line. So my point is, implement Trump's strategies. The other point is transform the culture so much that people say, I want to raise my kids there. Take less, reform the taxes that are just killing our businesses. Get the government out of our pockets and allow the businesses to do their job. That always transforms things. And I've seen it. I know you folks have seen it too. And I envision us Michigan, where we're going to be a lighthouse to the nation, and things are so amazing here with crime dropping because people actually love their neighbors as themselves, because people are teaching truth. I just see so many things happening positively for this state that not only is it, it's not like we're trying to deal with this X amount of dollars. We're going to grow the pot by families coming in, people wanting to start businesses, making it attractive, and the businesses that are here getting the government off their backs with the rules and regulations so that they can do what they do best.
Great. That is great. So, one last question for you. We want to know about showstoppers. So, things that run across your desk where it's an automatic veto. Give us 5. Give us your top 5.
Well, I've already signed the governor's pledge with Grover Norquist's group, Americans for Tax Reform. I've signed a pledge that says I will not, under any circumstances, raise taxes in Michigan. I would not sign anything that would increase abortion. I would not do anything like that. In fact, I would move in the other direction. I could speak so much on that topic. It's nothing but lies. I would not allow anything that would inhibit our constitutional protections in the state. We are guaranteed our rights, not by the government, but by God. And that's why it's helpful to have somebody who understands that in Lansing, because anything that would inhibit anybody's constitutional rights, whether it's standing on a sidewalk, pleading with ladies and men not to have an abortion, or whether it's owning a gun. I'm here at a Second Amendment event. I would not allow anything. That's absolutely right. Vaccine passports would not be anywhere near. I would. There's just no way. There's just no way. Is that 4 or 5? One more. The showstopper. Oh yeah, for sure. Thank you. But if you look at my website, you're going to see that the solutions are election integrity, and I could give you a list of 10 things under that. We want budget accountability, and I could give you a list under that. We want constitutional protection as well. I could give you a bunch of things under that, and those are things that I would desperately fight for.
There you have it, folks. That's Ralph Rebandt. Oh, we have one more question here.
I see all of this as progressive moving forward, but my heart bleeds for all of these small businesses that went under. What can we do to help them come back? And will they come back? Do we have some way of incentivizing them to come back?
Well, that's a great question, and here's what I would do. First of all, any fines that were incurred by the Whitmer administration, I'd give them their money back. The second thing I would do, and I apologize for not knowing the number, if it's $15 billion we just got from the federal government, I would give that to those businesses so that they could come back. I would give that to them.
Let's hear it for Ralph Rebandt.
Thank you. Thank you.